determined and stubbornly positive. That's me. ये मैं मेरे बारे में नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. So this is what our today's guest says about himself. We love to welcome you to our podcast, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's quite exciting to be part of something like this.
What is your expectation from this discussion? I mean, what are you? Is this your first? I'm sure it's.
So we've given interviews before, so not that it's new, but being part of a podcast, that too from students from NM, trust me, that's the first one.
Yeah. So so in our 20s, it's a lot like कि हमें कुछ करना है. सब में ना कुछ होता है कि कुछ करके दिखाना है. A lot of expectations from ourselves, sometimes from parents. So all of us just try to navigate our way through this. So how has your journey been like? How did you start from school to now? How has the journey been?
The journey has obviously been very planned actually in many ways. But I was lucky in that sense because the burden of expectations was not on my shoulders as much. And that's thanks to my parents. They just gave me the freedom to be what I wanted. Mom and dad, the only condition that probably they indirectly put, be the best in whatever you want to be. So they didn't want me to be a doctor or an engineer, typically at that time, what it was. And so I was kind of free from that. So I was free to choose. And at a very young age, in fact, in my fifth standard, I was very clear that I wanted to join the army. Absolutely very clear. In those days, we didn't have Google, but the interest was so much. I knew how fighter jets operated in fifth standard. I knew how 10 machine carbines worked. All right, how the pistol fires and why there are 9 rounds in a 9 mm pistol or whatever. And well, that's where my interest was. And that's what I thought I would be. I wanted to wear the olive green. And that's it. My part of the contribution in the country that I was born in. And that continued. I eventually did my scouts when I was in school, NCC when I was in college, and then I joined the army as well. So very lucky to become what I always dreamt to become, but because not everybody achieves their ambitions. I mean, in many ways, I feel blessed. This is one of
Amazing.
And what about your corporate journey? So you have a lot of experience in corporate as well. So how has that journey been, and how was the culture or the organizational know-how different in army and that in the corporate? What are the similarities?
the corporate journey has been. It has been pretty steady in that sense. So when I finished my tenure in the army, and I was looking to join the corporate world, at that point in time, I was open to any of the lines because infantry guys, army guys can actually fit into whichever role that we really want to. And at that point in time, I had 2 offer letters. One from a courier company which is in operations, which is very big, and the other one was from a crazy company who wanted to start an HR department without, with somebody who has no experience in HR.
Ah.
And I like that because, and I'm from a Sardar battalion. Okay, so sometimes logic doesn't appeal, and this was like, "Hey, banda, theek hai? Chal dekhte hain." So that's how I went for the interview, and I liked it. Was a crazy place to work, and I loved it. And it was Cargo Service Center, CSC, group company of KLM. So CSC wanted to start an HR department with somebody without, and the MD at that point in time, the country head, Mr. Radharamanan Panika, who is a mentor to me. He's the son of a brigadier, so he understood where I came from. And we had a wonderful 5 years learning from there. My grounding in HR comes from that organization. So that's how I joined. Eventually headed HR in many companies. Things changed for me when I was working for Future Group in the supply chain business. So I joined Future Supply Chains as head of HR for the express business. So there were two verticals at that point in time, express and warehousing. And crazy, but every 9 months, something happened to me in that company. Something good happened to me in that company. So 9 months, I was heading HR in this company. Everything was fine. And literally, one fine day when I came to my desk, my stuff was not there. Okay, I normally leave the laptop in the drawer, even that was not there. Everything was blank, and my team was having fun. They were saying, "Sir, aapka saman leke gaye." I said, "One sec, I'm the head of HR of this company. I'm sure if they were downsizing, I would have not."
Yeah, correct.
I said, "No." Then somebody from the MD office walked in, saying, "Saab ne bulaya." I said, "Saman nahi hai, saab kyun bula rahe ho bhai?" So I went, I don't think I've done anything wrong, but let's see. You never know, it's corporate, right? So I went there, and the MD at that point in time, he says, "Tapas, that's your desk." So I was made part of MD office. And he says, "You manage HR from here only." I said, "Okay." So I was handling MD office and I was handling HR for the express business, sitting on that desk, but I was part of MD office. To the other part of the question on culture, the two cultures are very different. Corporates are profit entities.
Yeah.
The Indian Army or the Defense Forces are not. It is a service oriented in the war. We take a lot of pride in doing what we do to the extent of even making the ultimate sacrifice without asking a question because we believe it is our job to do it. Because if it is not we, who else will?
Yeah.
In the corporate, you don't sacrifice yourself for a cause here. Secondly, in the army, the profession is such that you never get a second chance. And probably the best people you can ask are the guys who are from the front lines, the infantry guys or assault rifle guys. They will be able to detail it better. So you don't get a second chance. It is that opportunity. Like in corporate, you can have n number of chances. At best, you lose some money, lose an opportunity, you can gain it back. But you can't. So it's a high responsibility. So even in the battalion, when we were deployed at various locations for various purposes, that's something that always plays on the head. So our variables are very different. But what is common is purpose. All of us in the army have a clear purpose. And that binds us, even if we have not known the person at all. The fact that you wear an olive green is good enough.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. In corporate, you can't say the same. In corporate, the purpose of the corporate is one, but every individual also has their own purpose. So it's multiplicity of it. It's not about good or bad. It is just that they are different. So when you deploy yourself in the corporate, you need to deploy yourself accordingly. All right. When you're deploying yourself in the army, you put your life in somebody else's hand without asking a question because we are from the same unit. And you take the responsibility of somebody else's life without asking a question. It is a given. Okay. We don't do that in the corporate. But having said that, they're two different setups. They're not the same. But there are differences and there are similarities as well.
Okay. So if I particularly talk about army, how did you get in? For example, if somebody wants, if I have a desire, I want to join the army and serve the country. So how do I navigate my way? How do I start? And the exams that follow, and eventually, what is the path?
Okay. So there are different entries to the Army, Navy, and the Air Force.
Yeah.
Broadly, is the National Defense Academy, which is a leadership school of the Indian Army, of the Defense Forces.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's before 12th. After that, it is the IMA, the Indian Military Academy.
Yeah.
So these are for permanent appointments. You can also join the Officers Training Academy, which is for the Short Service Commissioners.
So
Short Service Commission officers, 1 year training, 6 months, 6 years, 5 years of active service, and then you have an option. You want to extend by another 5 years or take permanent commission. So the IMA guys don't have that option. They have permanent commissions. I don't think they want the option either. So that's good. So that's about the entries. You can pick and choose the way you want. The way I chose, I was the only guy in the entire family, my wife's side, my side. You see many generations who ever thought about joining the army. So people used to, my relatives, especially when I go to Calcutta for pujas, they would, army can you? Why you want to go to army? Like, you're a normal guy. Hey, what's wrong with you? I said, no, I want to join. And mom and dad were like, yeah, go for it. They're full support. And I'm the only son, and I'm a sister. But mom, I mean, the typical household story never happened. Mom was like, go for it. You're like rock solid. So,
So this was after 12th,
yeah.
Okay.
After graduation.
after graduation.
Since I'd already decided in my fifth standard I want to join the army, and I channelized everything, I did not go for engineering or medical. In fact, dad had arranged for an interview in one of the colleges for engineering. And then he said, no. He says, can't you become an engineer and also join the army? I said, yes, I can, but I want to be in the infantry. So I said, okay, fine, whatever that is. He
Yeah.
didn't understand the full scope. So at the end of it, I graduated with physics because if you take physics, you can opt for the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. So normally people give Air Force, Navy, and then the Army. My choice was Army, Air Force, and then the Navy. So Army was always first. Even in the academy, the choice was infantry, 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 and I had to give 2 support services, infantry, infantry. And then the instructor pulled me up, saying, supposed to write support services. That's your only infantry. Start rolling out there. Yes, I roll for 1 hour. And I'm not correcting that. It stays infantry. I don't want anything else. And he says, good, because when he was an infantry officer. So that's how it went. So I joined the Officers Training Academy because I wanted to join the army. That was fine. But at that point in time, I did not know how my family would adapt. Because nobody, they weren't supportive. All of that is fine. But I think I was getting a little selfish. And I met Shilpa by then, and we were to get married. And nobody from her family was there. And she was completely, totally speculative about the army. The entire thought that if army jaya to mar jayega, they were always there. So,
Yeah.
and plus the postings were in such places that naam kabhi suna hi nahi tha. ठीक है? You try and find it in the map, you don't find it. So that kind of places. So it was, I said it's fair to give the family an opportunity as well. After 5 years, you can always decide. See, I never wanted to be a general in the army. I was very clear. I wanted regimental life. 5 years of my youth to give it to the country that I was born in as a service and then permanent. So when my colleagues were actually doing MBAs and earning salaries, I was leading men into counterinsurgency operations. And I loved it. If I have a chance to go back to it, I will.
Yeah. So you told us that post 12th also there are ways, post graduation also there are ways. So after you give these exams, there's one big level of exam standing, that is the SSB. Few of my friends are appearing for SSB, have appeared, but it's a big toll if you don't get screened in. So how would you tell somebody who's going through this? What piece of advice should they take from you before going on for SSB? And what's the SSB about for somebody who doesn't know?
Well, the Service Selection Board is a method of selecting
Okay.
potential officers. So they look for many things
Yeah.
in it. And I don't think you should prepare for SSB. You are what you are. But like I said, defense services are the only profession where you don't get a second chance.
Yeah.
If the wrong person gets in, It costs lives. So it's important that if you're not cut out for it, you're not cut out. No. I cleared my SSB in the third attempt.
Okay.
I had 2 more attempts. I would have given that also. I had no plan B at that time. There was only plan B, which was the army, which was the infantry in the army. I was very, very clear. So when you're giving SSB, there are various types of tests. Go through it like you would normally.
Yeah.
Because if you train and try to manipulate that, firstly, they know. They're very experienced guys.
Absolutely.
Secondly, if you do it, whom are you bluffing? You're bluffing yourself.
Yeah.
So don't. Go through it. If you get through, give all your attempts. Like my biggest problem, I would have got through the first attempt, but my handwriting was bad. And the psychologist actually told me, Tapas, I can't read. What the bloody hell you've written? I still remember his voice. This is okay. If that is the case, when I came back from the second exercise, I completely shattered.
Yeah.
All right, the first and the second. So Allahabad and Bangalore. And Bangalore has 2 SSB. The train journey back was like you're carrying yourself dead back. Literally feels that way. And then when you come back again, I used to take economic times and write
Yeah.
and time myself with those words
Yeah.
just to improve. And I used to show everybody, can you read this? So 1 minute, then reduce it to 40 seconds, the length of the, that's how I practice. And eventually I got through. All right, I cleared my medicals, everything in one go. 6 of us were shortlisted in my batch. I was the only one who was cleared through and through. The rest all 5 got stuck somewhere or the other in the medical. Temporary rejections, but they all joined the academy later on. So the advice to them is, go as yourself, do as endurance. All right. There's one more thing that I think we should talk about here. Soldiering is a profession, yes. It is more of a mindset than a profession. Today, our country needs soldiers, yes. We need officers, yes, we do. But we also need them on the business side, on the economic side, because that is the next frontier. On the technology side, that is the next one. All right. So you really need to serve the country overall. Army is definitely the way to do it. But by being good at your profession and being on the economic side as well.
Yeah.
If you look at the large companies today, they are literally carrying India on their shoulders. Right?
Yeah.
Aren't they serving the country? Yes, they are. All those businessmen who are doing what they're doing. Okay. And that's, so even if you don't clear the SSB, maybe you should not push for it too much. All right. But this is, a soldier is a soldier. It's here. And you win or you lose, first in your mind, then on ground. So if you not lost the battle here, you've not lost. And there's so many examples, not just cockroach, even in the military. If you read the Paramveer Chakra winners, you'll realize these guys were in hopeless situations. But they refused to give up.
Yeah.
That's why they did what they did and got what they got.
Yeah.
So talking about the army and all the you talked about. So recently we know that soldiers are being recruited as Agniveers, and also the female participation is also increasing in the army. So what is your outlook on all of this?
I think it's very good. I remember when the Agniveer scheme was launched and somebody had raised a question to one of the guys who was running every morning so that he can clear the exam entry for the Agniveer. He said it's only for 3 years or 5 years, whatever the time is. After that, and I love this response. He said, even if they take me for 3 days, I'm happy. It's an opportunity to serve. If you look at the army as a career, it is a career. So you go through the NDA, go through the IMA. If you look at it as a service, it is a service. What you gain from the army is a lifestyle, a way of thinking, an attitude. And that is your biggest asset. Everything else comes later. And that will always differentiate you from the others in the civil world as well. Women in the defense forces have always been there. Okay, historically also. We've had defense, we've had women in warfare, and there are even in the Indian National Army. Okay, so nothing new. The Navy always had women. The Air Force always had women. All right, may not be in the fighting arms initially. Today they have. We have some of the best pilots flying some of the high techs. Yeah. And to be very honest, there is nothing called a lady officer or a male officer.
Absolutely.
There is only an officer. It is not that women officers have lesser responsibility or greater responsibility, or male officers have a greater. They all have equal responsibilities, equal liabilities. All right. They have also won gallantry awards. So, to my mind, there are only officers. Whether you're a male or a female is secondary. We had male officers jump out of aircrafts at 30,000 feet, and so even the female officers, but they're the same. Trust me, they're as lethal as anyone else. So there is no question. It is in our mind that we create this differentiation, which I think is unfair for the lady officers. They themselves don't like being differentiated. Like, officers are officers.
So we would also would want to know, when you talk about purpose, you had a lot of, I'm sure, good times or good memories, even memories that you might scare you a bit now, thinking of the army time. If something you could share out of those, or is it like the movies that they show, पहाड़ चढ़ रहे हो, opposite में से दुश्मन आ रहे हैं, and all of that happens? Is it like that in reality?
जो पहाड़ जाते गाना गाते गाते ट्रक में जो पहाड़ चढ़ रहे हो, कोई गाना नहीं, कोई कोई भी नहीं गा सकता गाना, ठीक है? So it is not. See, some of the movies have been made quite close to reality. All right, like Prahat. I mean, Nana Patekar did a good job in the Commando score. Yes, it happens that way. But when you're going through it, it's something very different. All right, but it's not a movie. It's real life.
Yeah.
All right. And some of the battles that I admire, I think Major Shaitan Singh is a Paramveer Chakra winner. We're lucky stretch them all. Kisam Kumar, the battle that he fought against the Chinese, that kept them at bay, which kept our only airstrips safe for a longer period of time till it got reinforced, was amazing. I mean, these guys had to bring in artillery to get his boys. There were barely about 3 or 4 survivors. And one of the interviewers, one of the survivors actually said, कि कुमाऊं के बंदों ने, बच्चों ने, सब, everyone died, no, except 3. And everyone died at their weapon positions. Right? Major Shaitan Singh also, he had finger in his, on the trigger. They were out of ammunition and battered by artillery. And in the interview, this man said, सभी ने छाती पे गोली खाई, किसी ने भी पीठ पे गोली नहीं खाई. The pride in that man's voice and his eyes can't be more motivating, man. I mean, look at this. These were things that motivated.
And I got goosebumps while you were saying कि सबने छाती पे गोली खाई.
They're so proud. You should read about Major Shaitan Singh. I mean, all the Paramveer Chakra guys are amazing, you know. But I guess we tend to have biases. So for me, it is Major Shaitan Singh. I think he fought the battle of his life. Lucky fellow.
Yeah. So for somebody who wants to join the army, if you could recommend 3 skills that they should have, or if they're willing to go, then how do they develop that? Like if they don't have, how do they develop?
Normally, the qualities that we look at in the selection process is something called officer-like qualities, OLQs. But there is no textbook that can tell you what are they looking for. My advice always is go there zinda dil, ठीक है, जान और जिगर दोनों लेके जाना वहां पे. Do whatever task is there in full spirit of the task. Enjoy doing the tasks. Enjoy that interview. Enjoy. I remember in my interview, they asked me, okay, you are in pharma. I joined Boots Pharmaceuticals after my graduation because I had a father-in-law to be to face, right? उसको confirmation letter दिखाना था. इसके लिए ऐसे नहीं नौकरी कर लेते till the time I get into college. So when I was there, he says, you're in pharma, you sell insulins. I said, yes, what I do. So what if I don't buy insulins? And it's I would like to know why. I don't want to talk to you about it. This is just too bad for you. I will get in my next one. And he started laughing. Because nobody tells the head of the panel just too bad for you if you don't want to buy the insulin. So he says, so what will you do? I'll try again. And there are more. The market is. And then I just walked out. I said, this is what I told this fellow. I'm sure he's going to throw me out of colonel. Yaar. And I'm like a nobody who wants to join Forge, and I go and tell him, too bad for you. That's it. And as the results happened, I got through. And he eventually met me after the results were declared. And he laughed. He said, nobody does that. Do you know that, Tapas? So after he just left, all of us were laughing at him. They were brutal.
Yeah.
Just be yourself. Enjoy what you're doing. If you go there, कि मुझे pass होना है, pass, you'll stress yourself more. The true self will never come out. Because even if you mask it during SSB, during an encounter, you can't mask बस. जब गोलियां चलती है ना दोस्त, उस वक्त only the true colors are out.
Yeah.
Either जान और जिगर है या नहीं है, दो में से एक. You can't train yourself for it. Essence. Man, woman doesn't matter. But this does matter. So don't, just be yourself. Enjoy.
But apart from the mindset, there would be something, like some checklist in the skills. For example, I have to be physically at par to appear for the army, or some skills that required.
Medical requirements are there.
Yeah.
So you need to be physically fit. Your eyesight needs to be 6x6 or whatever that is. All this kind of stuff. So if you can run 5 kilometers in like 20, 25, 30 minutes also, good enough.
Right. So we had a lot of questions in mind, to be honest.
Oof.
But considering that we would need another episode for sure for your HR work, for your operations work,
Yeah.
for the ESG work that has happened. But one last question for today. You spoke about how important it is to stay relevant. So if you could recommend us 3 books to stay relevant in today's time, we would love to know.
So to stay relevant, which are the books in the Code of the Extraordinary Mind? But this book is literally my Bible.
Yeah, you would show us. Show the camera.
Business the ultimate resource.
You know what it is? All entrepreneurs,
Oh.
businesses, the amount we can learn in this book, and I bet it takes a lot of time, trust me, to read what's here. Some of the best works are in this book.
Okay.
You read this, the kind of it's not something which you will read and shelve it. It is literally a reference book, and the digital version is not available of this. All right, so you have to go through it.
Yeah.
And when you read, and the same thing when you read even twice, you get very different perspectives of that.
Yeah.
So, and these are so many people in so many ways that they have actually, there's so many wonderful things that they have done and they have failed in doing. The success and failure both are important. Okay.
Yeah.
So they've succeeded and they have failed, and they've talked about it here. You learn a lot. So their attempt to transform the world or do what they want to, their success, their failures, is part of them trying to be relevant to that. And the basic principles remain the same.
Yeah.
Even today's entrepreneurs, so many of them, nobody succeeds at one go, very rare. You'll be very, very lucky. It's failure, failure, and then success. And when that happens, you learn more from failure than you learn from success. And all of that being documented at one place, this is my pipe.
What's that one about?
That's the code of the extraordinary mind. It's all about the mind, right?
Yeah. Amazing.
So then it fundamentally talks about mindfulness. The world is all about the way you look at and the way you treat yourself.
Yeah.
It's got a lot to do with that. So uncertainty, for example, is something that we are very comfortable with. Well, that's what we lived in. You
Yeah.
get into counterinsurgency operation. You don't know from where the first shot is going to come. It can come from anywhere. The first shot is the prerogative of that fellow. After that, it is us. You live with that kind of uncertainty. And the first shot could be fatal as well, right?
Yeah.
In the civil, people are very scared of thoda sa bhi routine change ho gaya, like, oh my god, that's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's all about answer. It's yeah.
Right. So, thank you for the great recommendations, if I may say. We would want to continue the discussion further, but today we just take a small pause here. Thank you for your amazing time in the army. A lot of it was something that we knew just in bits and pieces, but in depth to speak to Captain per se is a privilege. So, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, and I'll be very happy to have another round of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.